Hello everyone, this is General Hand Grenade. Welcome to my war room in Prince George, British Columbia. Today's video is the last video in my series of how to play Global War 1936 to 1945. It's not the last video that I'll do in how to play, but this is covering the rule book. So I've been through the entire rule book and I've jumped around from place to place to place. The creators of the game have ordered their rule book in a certain way, and I've chosen to reorder it in my own mind. So, you kind of got, I'm forcing you to follow my way of thinking on this. And this is an example. Like in this this video here, we're going to talk about victory, how to achieve victory, how to calculate and see who won the game. And they have put it in section 3, so almost at the very beginning of the book. But for me, it's the last thing because it's okay. The end game is over. It's time to calculate the points and see who won. So, I mean, we're doing the same thing. We're just doing it in a bit of a different order. So if you are looking for how to do this, then you will find it on page 14 of the rule book. That's where it begins. And it's not this up here. That's just talking. That's before that. So section 3 begins on halfway through page 14. And it starts talking about victory and objectives and everything. And then to find the victory objectives themselves, like here, the United States here, that starts on page 15. And it goes page 16, page 17, page 18. So you'll find them all here. And you can use that if you'd like, but also they are on the cards here. So here we have the nation cards. We have the Soviet Union and Japan. So for Japan, for instance, it's on the front page. So these victory objectives here are the same as you will see in the rule book, and you don't see it on the first page of the Soviet Union one, but don't worry about it if you don't see it on the one that you have. Look on the second page, because there's so much information that some of them have more on the front page than others. There it is right there, the victory objectives, and that's what you're looking for when you're totaling up to see who won the game. So you can use either one. You can either use your own card, or you can use the rule book to see. There was one discrepancy that I noticed, because as we were totaling up our game that we played last weekend, Rank Carcass was using the rules over there, and I was following along with the cards over here. And I noticed here in the Japanese victory objectives in raw materials, it says you can possess any of these at the end of the game. Malay, Hanoi, Saigon, the Philippines, Borneo, or Java. Okay, and in here in the rule book for Japan, it says all of those things: Borneo, Java, and Nanking. So that's a bit of a discrepancy there. So you'll kind of have to decide: is Nanking going to be a victory objective? That's something you'll talk about before the end of the game. Because, you don't want a big fight breaking out. No, that's not on the card there. That's not how I play the game. Well, it's in the rule book. You can see that being a problem. So you got to make sure before the game begins that, that's one discrepancy. And that speaks to winning the game. Like, that could be 1 point right there. And that could be the difference between winning and losing. Now, I'm not sure which it's supposed to be. There is a second way of doing it, though. And so maybe that gives us a hint. And so the victory objectives are these things here that I showed you, right? Like, like you'll do something, right? And we're going to go through each and every one of them. But that's one way to do it. So you add up all the Japanese points and all the German points and all the Italian points, and, and you get it up. And so, like, I've got it up on the board over there, you can see, from our last game. But there's another way of doing it that they have here, and that's objective cities. It says you can calculate the victory objectives by totaling the number of objective cities a player controls. And then it lists what the cities are, and they're all the capital cities. And one of them is Nanking. At this time in China, that was the capital of China, right? But I want to show you something here. So this is what we came out with in our last game when we played. So the Allies totaled 4 points with the victory objectives. Russia and the Comintern total 7 points, and the Axis total 5. But if you use victory cities, the Allies had 5, Russia had 1, so they were last place big time, and Germany had, or I'm sorry, the Axis had 4. So you can see how how the discrepancy is there. You know, like you have to decide ahead of time. Are you going to go for cities, or are you going to go for the victory objectives? But I don't know. Like I don't know if they wrote this wrong, or if they're just or if it wasn't well thought out. But the problem with going with objective cities is that the Allies start with 6 victory cities, and Russia starts with 1. You know, like I don't know how you could total all of them. So what I think what they might have meant by this, and maybe it was just written down wrong, was the number of cities that you have captured. That would make sense to me. Like in this game, Japan has captured Nanking, right? So that could be a point for Japan. And I don't think there's any other cities on the board in this game that are captured. Like Paris was captured, but the Americans liberated that on the last turn of the game, or was it this? Yeah, I think the last turn of the game they liberated Paris. So it could be cities that were captured. And to me, that would make sense as well, because that's you would think that would be a victory objective by capturing a person's or the other side's capital cities, right? So you've got your victory objectives on your cards there. Why not add the victory cities that you've captured, not the ones that you owned at the start of the game? Like, how many times are you going to see Washington lost, right? I mean, you might see London lost, but even that would be difficult, right? Same with Tokyo. Tokyo would be really hard to take out of the game. It could happen, but it's not likely to happen. Rome is a little more likely. But so anyway, like for the Allies though, for instance, they're almost guaranteed of 1 city. 2 of them would be really difficult. Paris would be easy to take, and Nanking would be easy to take over there. But I don't see scoring the game based on how many cities you own at the end of the game out of those cities. What is there, 9 or 10 of them? Because one side is almost always going to win the game. Like the Axis would have to absolutely trash everybody in this game, just have the best game ever in order to win this game, right? In order to have more objective cities. So that's why I think that what they meant was objective cities captured, but I could be wrong about that. But anyway, like that's why I don't have a problem with the way it's written in the rule over here with Japan. You know, why not, oh, that's not it. With Japan, where it says Nanking would be another objective. And that's maybe why it's not written on the card over there, is because capturing a city, maybe what they thought was capturing a city was an objective in itself. Anyway, you can see the discrepancy though, like the Allies won the game by going the way the rule book says if you went with the cities, and they came in last place when it came to totaling the victory objectives. So anyway, let's just go through all of these, okay? Let's use the rules here. So the Americans, how do the Americans gain points? Let's just move over here so I can get myself some room here. Okay, so the Monroe Doctrine. It says score 1 victory objective if there are no Axis or Soviet land units in the Western Hemisphere at game end, and no land units in the U.S. home country has been in possession of an enemy player during the game at any time. So the U.S. home country is only the lower 48, but there's not 48 territories, but that's what's referred to as lower 48. So that's all of this here, the American homeland here, and the American homeland over here, okay? Oof. Dominoes. It does not include any of the islands. It does not include Alaska, or Hawaii, or Philippines, or anything like that. It just means the American mainland, okay? So if nobody has at any time captured one of those territories, and nobody at the end of the game is possessing any of the Western Hemisphere. The Western Hemisphere is this, okay? It's Canada and the United States and Central America and South America. And of course that includes this chunk of land over here, okay? That's the Western Hemisphere. It doesn't include the water. They're not talking about the water. They're talking about if somebody else has a land territory at the end of the game, or at any point in the game, somebody has taken an American territory from the American homeland. So if none of that's happened, then the American gains a point. And that's what you see up here. The Americans gained a point in our game. That's the only point that the Americans were able to gain. Okay, so what's the next one? Contain fascism. Score 1 victory objective if at the end of the game Germany or Italy are within their borders as of the start of the scenario. So then you have to look at the other guys. Okay, let me see. I can see right away that that's not true, because look, there's a German thing right here, so I don't even have to go around and look at Italians and everything. Like here's a German here, here's a German here. What they're saying is that the Germans have to be on the gray part here, and the Italians have to be on their original territories that they started with at the end of the game. And there's a couple of islands too. So if they would have to be having a pretty bad game though, because like you can see here, Germany is losing in the war in Europe here, but yet they still have something outside of Germany. So that's a pretty difficult point to gain there, right? Okay, so contain communism. Score 1 victory objective if there are less than 3 new nations or former colonies possessed by the Comintern worldwide at the end of the game. I don't think that really, I don't think that would contain Spain, because Spain is a whole nation, right? You can't just say a territory, you have to say a nation. But when you look over here, like here's 3 territories right here. There's Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. There's 3 territories. Here's a country. Here's a country right here, Hungary. Okay, so there's 4 right there. We know that that the Russians have taken at least 4. And we could look around, and actually I don't know that they've taken any more. Oh, yeah, they've got Finland here as well. That's 5. They don't have this one up here. Anyway, they've got 5, and maybe I'm missing 1 or 2, but at least 5. So we know that the Americans don't get a point for that one. Okay, Pacific security. Score 1 victory objective if the U.S. ends the game with twice as many capital ships in the Pacific as Japan. If a player has 0 capital ships, then count this as a half a ship. In other words, if you have 1 capital ship and the other side has none, then that's twice as many. Okay, so when we look at that here, capital ships are battleships or fleet carriers, not the little carriers, but the big carriers. The fleet carriers that carry 2 planes. So here we have 1 battleship that the Japanese have. You don't see any battleships over here or carriers over here for the Americans, but I had sailed one on the last turn of the game over here. See, this is the Pacific Ocean right here as well. It's just so there's only three spaces for it. There are 3 sea zones, but they belong on that side of the border. Like if they had put this right over to the edge, then these would be in the Pacific, right? What I needed to do, and what I did at the end of the game, there's a similar rule about twice as many capital ships in the Mediterranean, right? And I'll get to that later, but I screwed up. I didn't read the rules right. I thought that it was the Allies, but it was actually Britain versus Italy. So I sailed this carrier into here. I had plenty of time to sail that carrier down over there with that battleship. That would have given me 2 ships and given them 1 ship, and I would have gained a point for that. But my not knowing the rules and being an inexperienced player meant that I threw away a point there. So there you go. The U.S. only got that 1 point. They could have had 2 very easily by just doing that. And that's one of the problems that I have with this game. That's the biggest problem I have with the game, is these victory conditions. Like, who cares how many capital ships you have, you know? And at the end of the game, I'm sailing a capital ship away from the fight over here. You know, like I'm sailing a couple of them away from the fight over here. This is where they were. They were trying to beat the crap out of Germany, and I just leave, you know, because I'm trying to gain a point. Like it just doesn't seem like a part of the game. It's kind of like in hockey where they fight and fight and fight, you know, and they play and they score and then the game's tied and then they have a shootout at the end, you know. Like, that has nothing to do with a hockey game. That's just a skills competition. you know, where they're having a shootout. That's not a hockey game. But anyway, that's what I'm talking about here. Is at the end, it's just a skills competition. How many points you can gain instead of how you can win the war. And they had to do something, you know, like but it just seems like it was, I don't know, maybe the objectives could have been better. Like that one there is not a good objective as far as I'm concerned. You know, like twice as many capital ships, it doesn't matter. You know, like the Americans could have 30 ships over here, and Japan has only one battleship and that's it. You know, does that mean that the Japanese are a stronger navy than the Americans? I don't think so. But anyway, that's a point. Doesn't matter what I think. That's a point. So that's Pacific security. Then there's maintain the empire. That's another one. Score 1 victory objective if the U.S. ends the game in possession of all its original territories as of 1936. And I didn't do that. So, if I could have done that is probably, no, I don't think I could have done it. Japan had too many ships over here. So the only one that I'm not in possession of here is this one here, the Philippine Islands, right? Like I've got transports and I could have got over there. But like if you've seen the end of the game, you'd see that there was a fight and the fight was out here. And for me to break through, I guess I probably could have because the Americans went last. Like if I had managed to get some transports here and then threw some guys on here, but like I was playing against some pretty experienced players, so they probably would have loaded up over there on the Philippines just so I didn't get that point. And that's, you know, so that's what you got to do. It's not just about knowing the points that you need to get, but knowing the points that the other players need to get and finding ways to prevent that from happening. So that's why I didn't get that point. Technological superiority. Score 1 victory objective if the U.S. has heavy bombers, jet aircraft, strategic rockets, and long-range aircraft technology at the end of the game. And this is what they're talking about, is the technology chart. So they're saying that you should have those four technologies. What is it? Jet aircraft, long-range, strategic rockets, and heavy bombers. Now, this is another one that I have a serious problem with. I think of all the victory objectives in the entire game, this is the one that I have the most problem with. And the reason is, there's absolutely no way in the world that the Americans could use strategic rockets. So you're asking the Americans to develop strategic rockets instead of something that's going to help them win the war. You know, like what is that? Why would you develop strategic rockets? A rocket can only go 3 spaces. Okay, so let's put a rocket on here. 1, 2, 3. Ooh, boy, we just bombed the Azores. You know, like what good is that going to do? Same with on the other side over here. You know, you put your rocket down over here. 1, 2, 3. Oh, good, we just bombed Midway Island. You know, like why would you develop strategic rockets? It makes no sense whatsoever. Now I can see why you would do that. Why this would be a rule? Why you would put, you know, like if you gain these 4 technologies. But you know what I think would be a better rule than that, and that is along the same lines as, does America have more technologies than any other nation at the end of the game? Like it doesn't matter what those technologies are. Say like Germany has 4, then America would have to have 5 to get a point. Or if Russia had 4, then America would have to get 5. Or if Japan had 6 of them, America would have to get 7. If they both got 7, then America doesn't get a point. That makes more sense to me than America going out and developing strategic rockets, which they will never use in this game. Not just this game that we played, but any game that you will ever play of this. You will never ever use a strategic rocket in this game as the Americans. If you started the game at war in 1939, sure, you could come all the way over and you could get on there and then you could build yourself a rocket base and then you could shoot a rocket, fine. But in this game, you're lucky if you get 5 or 6 turns where the Americans are in the war. It takes 5 or 6 turns just to get across the water with transports, because you're going to have to fight through the Japanese, or you're going to have to fight your way onto the land here, and then you're going to get taken back, and then you're going to take them back, and then, you know, it takes a while for you to get established on, like, you don't have time to put rockets on here, okay? So that is the worst victory objective in the entire game, that one right there. And I knew what the objective was. I read them before the game, and I said, you know what? I'm giving that point up right now. I'm not going to play to that victory objective point. I don't care if I lose the game. I'm not going to do something that is completely ridiculous. And I lost the game. So was I smart? I don't know. But I wanted to play a good game. I did not want to play something silly like that. Okay, so we go next to Great Britain. In our game, the UK only gained 1 point up there. So let's find out what that was. Okay, so the first one, contain communism. Now that's the same objective that the Americans had. Score 1 victory objective if the USSR has no land units west of eastern Poland and does not possess the Bosphorus or Dardanelles Straits. So that's a different, it's the same thing as the Americans had, contain communism, but it's a different standard, right? So what they're saying is west of eastern Poland or those straits. Now here's eastern Poland here, right? Now what they're saying is if the Soviets were contained over here, like they hadn't come to this side of the board, past that, then there's that, and also they don't control these straits. In other words, they don't possess this land zone, because whoever possesses this land zone controls the Dardanelles and Bosphorus Straits, and that's these two straits right here. There's one here and there's one here. You can barely see that. There's one right here. So, but in order to do that, the Russians would have to have this land zone. So that's okay for the UK, but what isn't okay was that they'd pass that. You see there's a tank here, an airborne guy here. Okay, so we already know they didn't do it. I mean, there's a guy over here, right? So they've gone past, right? So that, they didn't get a point for that. Maintain the empire. Score 1 victory objective if Great Britain ends the game in possession of the following land zones. South Africa, the South African Union, Cairo, and Aden. Let's just go down to the other side of the board there. Okay, so with the Americans, they had to have all of their territories. With the British, they're only saying that you have to have this territory here, Aden, and hang on a second, the South African Union, which is down at the bottom of the map here, and they have that one as well. These guys got knocked around. And what was the third one there? Cairo. So here, Cairo. And they do have all three of them. So that's the only point they were able to gain in this game. They had Cairo, they had Aden, and they had South African Union. So that was their 1 point in the game, and that's the only point that they were able to gain. Okay, contain fascism. Score 1 victory objective if Germany and Italy are within their scenario starting boundaries at end of game. Okay, so we started this game in 1936, so they had to be within their borders in 1936. On the American one, it said that they had to be at the start of the 1936 scenario, so that meant regardless of whether you started in 39 or 36. But this one, it says at the start of the scenario. So, for instance, in the 1939 scenario, Germany starts with more than the gray territories there. They start with some of the ones that are down to the right of that. Okay, so you would have to have them in those zones as well. But we know already, we started in 1936, that they're outside of those territories. We already checked that out with the Americans. So we know we didn't get that one. And then Mediterranean security. Score 1 victory objective where Britain has twice the capital ships as the Axis in the Mediterranean and controls Malta, Suez, and Gibraltar. And again, 0 capital ships, it counts as a half a ship. So you have to have Gibraltar here and the Suez Canal, which by owning Cairo, you would also own the Suez Canal, and Malta, which is the island right in the middle here. This one here, it's hard to see because of it's covered up, but that's Malta. So you would have to have all three of these, and you would have to have twice as many capital ships for the UK as the Axis do. So that includes all of the Axis. And we didn't. Nobody had any capital ships in there. The only capital ship is the American one, and I remembered it wrong. Like I read it at the start, and then I remembered I was thinking that it was Allied ships, but it wasn't. It was just British ships. Okay, so that's it for the UK in Europe there. Now the FEC, it says, preserve the empire. Score 1 victory objective at the end of the game. If at the end of the game the FEC has possession of all land zones worth more than 1 IPP in India, Burma, Ceylon, and Malay. Okay, so so this is India, and this is Burma. This is Malay. That's good. But then what was the last one there? Ceylon. Well, I think I had those. I think what I was... Actually, I think I calculated that wrong. I think I do have that point there. It's all land zones that are worth a point there. It looks like I actually did have that point. Huh. How about that? India, Burma, Ceylon, and Malay. See, I thought that I didn't have it because of this territory right here. Sarawak. I was thinking that they had to have all of their territories. So we were really tired when we were calculating these, right? So we're going to have to change that. Hear that, right, Carcass? I didn't come in last. You and I tied for last. So FEC goes up by 1. 2. And this one is 5. Who knows, by the end of this video I might have won the game. I doubt it. Anyway, so there's that 1 point there. Okay. Anzac. So there's the Anzac down there, the Grey Dudes. Score 1 victory objective if there are no enemy troops anywhere in Australia or New Zealand and there are no enemy warships in or south of the Netherlands, East Indies. Okay, so they're not down here. There's no units, so that's good. But you see this one ship right here? That's a warship, even though it's a submarine. And this is the Dutch East Indies here, right here. So that one ship there prevented me from getting the point for Anzac. So Anzac got 0 points in this game. So but there was no way, like I don't see how I could have got that one. These planes just went on at the end and they were attacking this over here. Otherwise, well, even then, like they would have had to be on combat air patrol, right? So anyway, I didn't get that one, but those are the kind of things you need to set up a few turns ahead of time, right? Okay, so let's move on to the French victory conditions. Disarm Germany. Score 1 victory objective if German income is less than 24 at the end of the game. And that's why we changed all the incomes. We took off all the bonuses just to put them at just, you know, the territories that they own. And you can see here that Germany is at 36, so the French do not get a point for that then. Score 1 victory objective if the Comintern does not possess any land zones adjacent to French home country. Now here, let's take a look. This is the French home country. These territories here in blue, plus this one down here that Germany has. So what they're saying is the Comintern, and that's a shame because you see this roundel right here. The Russians possess this territory right here, and that is adjacent to France. So they do not get that point. And then maintain the empire. Score 1 victory objective if at the end of the game France has possession of all land zones that are worth 1 or more points and France is in possession of all French home country. So I couldn't have got that because of this one territory here. That's part of the home country. So I needed to get that. And there's this one over here. This territory where these Japanese planes are is worth points as well. It's worth 1 point there. So I needed to take this zone here, and I needed to take Corsica over there. That would have given France a point. So France, as you can see up there, it has 0 points. Okay, let's move on to the Soviet Union there. We'll go to the other side of the board there, and they're the winners of the game. Moose did a really good job of on the last turn of the game. Like, he must have picked up at least 4 or 5 points at the end of the game. Okay, so we're going to go with the Soviets first. So buffer zone. Score 1 victory objective if the USSR possesses East Poland, Lubelski, Vipury, and all 3 Baltic states at the end of the game. So East Poland, right here. Here, let me just move this up a bit. Okay, this one here. Lubelski, I think that's this one here, yeah. And Vipury, so that's this one up here. And all 3 Baltic states. Now these are the Baltic states right here. Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. So they did that. So they scored 1 point there. Now worldwide communism. Score 1 victory objective for each land zone worth at least 1 IPP that the USSR possess at the end of the game that it did not possess at the start of the game and are not scored as part of another Soviet victory condition. So like they do score a point over here. We'll get to that one later, and there's something worth of, there's a couple places where the point in there, but we don't count those because we're counting those for winning the war. But we need to look for land zones that are worth a point. So here's one here. That's 1, 2. There's one over here. That's 3. There's one over here. That's 4. There's one that's 5. There's 6. This one here, that's 7. But one of those might be part of another condition. I'm not sure, or either that or he miscounted. Anyway, so he spent a lot of time on his last turn. He attacked a whole bunch of territories outside, including flying this guy over with his transport plane here. He had one of those guys waiting, and he was just waiting to see, okay, where's there an empty space, so that he didn't have to go and fight somebody. Like, he didn't want to land here because there's a guy there. He landed here because there was nobody on there. And so that got him a point right there, right? So the victory conditions are pretty easy for the Russians to get if the Russians are doing pretty well, like they're up to here, right? Then they can just spill over. They go after Germany goes. So they just, you know, there's nothing bad that's going to happen from them attacking with everything they got, because there's nothing that nobody can attack them after that. So they might as well just attack everything they possibly can at the end of the game, right? Here's another one here worth a point. So he might even have missed a few points. Okay, then there's Eastern security. Score 1 victory objective if USSR has in aggregate twice the number of forces on all shared Japanese-US land borders as the Japanese. And you can see that they don't, because that was one of the objectives that the Japanese were able to get. So you see all of these troops here, they actually got the point because they have the reverse in theirs if they have twice as many as the Russians. So they had twice as many units here as the Russians do. And so the Russians did not get that point. The Japanese did. And then there's ice-free port. Score 1 victory objective if the USSR possess a naval base bordering the Atlantic, North Sea, or Mediterranean. That's one of them. There's also another part to that. So, like, having this port in here doesn't count, right? And shipyards are the same thing as naval bases for the purposes of a lot of things in this game. So this one does not count. Nothing in here counts, even though they have this one as well. These are not considered ice-free points. These are not considered ice-free ports. It has to be out here in the Mediterranean, so they would have needed to have one of these, or maybe this one, or this one. Even if they had this one here, that would have been good. Actually, this one here might have done it for them too. So they needed an ice-free port out there, and they didn't have one. The North Sea or the Mediterranean. Like, they could have had one down there in the Mediterranean. That would have worked as well, right? Like, if they owned Taranto here, then that would have given them an ice-free port. The other half of that is, or it possesses Crimea and the Bosphorus and Dardanelles Straits. So here's Crimea, and they possessed that. That's good. But they also had to possess these straits here. Otherwise, this ice-free port here doesn't do them any good. They can go to this zone or they can go to this zone. You know, like, big deal, right? But they needed to possess this. In other words, they needed to own this territory right here. That would have given them the point for that objective there. So those are the Russian victory objectives. I'm going to pause this for a second. I got to take a drink of my coffee. Okay, so once again I screwed up there. The FEC there, they only had one victory objective they could have possibly gotten. And I finished this video, like, I went on and on and on after that. Luckily I broke shortly after the Russian started the Russian section, so then I'm watching the video back. I usually watch it before I upload it, and I realized, what the hell, so I did count this point the other night, so I don't have 2 points for that, I only have 1. And so we go to the board, and I've already changed it. The FEC has 1 point, not 2. They could only possibly get 1. So, and then the Allies back to 4. So I'm back to being a loser again. Anyway, I'm just gonna cancel that upload and throw this section of the video in between the other 2 videos. So afterwards, after this, you might hear me say something about the score and how it's changed. Just remember back to this point where the Allies only got 4 points and not 5. I don't want to go and redo the rest of the entire video, okay? So there's that. Okay, so I had to take a little break there to take a drink of my coffee, and then I thought, well, I'll just find where I am, you know, and so be prepared for the next part of the video. And then I kind of got stumped there. I was looking for the victory point that you get for winning the Spanish Civil War. The Republicans had won it. The Republicans are part of the Comintern, right? They're Russia's ally. And I couldn't find it anywhere. Like it did say in the Spanish Civil War that there was a victory condition for it, for the Russians. But it didn't specify that you got a point for it. And so I texted Will Henson and said, what gives? You know, where do I find that? And he said, oh, it's not there. You don't get a point for it. What you get is you get points for these territories here. So there's one here. And there's one there. Like I was talking earlier, there's points for the territories in there. So we got to adjust the score here. This is actually, and I while I was doing that, I counted up how Moose had calculated, and he was pretty close to being right, but he wasn't quite. So there wasn't that point for the Spanish Civil War, but there was 8 points for having territories outside of Russia. Oh, wait a minute. It's actually 7, because he had another point for that other thing. So he had 8 in total, that's what I meant to say. So 7 and 1, so he had 8 points in total, not 7 as I previously thought. So I thought I was going to catch him, but there's just no way. So anyway, that's you can actually, for the Republicans, you can actually get 2 points for Spain, but you might get no points for Spain. You might win the Spanish Civil War, and then after the war begins, then you could lose all this, right? Like you could, or just lose these 2 territories that are worth an IPC, and then you don't get any points in there. So I guess you need to hang on to that if you're the Russians. Okay, so that is the Soviets. So let's move on. Who's next? Well, actually, let's do this one here, the CCP, because they're part of them as well, the Comintern. So for them, expel foreign influence. Score 2 victory objectives if at the end of the game there are no foreign enemy troops in mainland China, excluding Hainan Island, and it says that the KMT are not foreign units. And clearly they did not get that because there's a ton of Japanese in there, right? But one of the things that is kind of odd here is it says 1 point, it says score 2 points, and then it says 2 points, score 1 point. So I'm not sure what they meant there. One of these is written wrong. So inflame the revolution. Score 1 victory objective if at the end of the game the CCP has more land units in China than the KMT, and that's not the case. When we calculated these, we weren't sure, but we said, okay, partisans is not a unit. were saying that you had to have at least a militia for them to be a unit, because really they're what they are just citizens, right? That's all partisans are, is just citizens with guns. So they're not really a unit. A militia is kind of the same thing, but they're an actual unit, right? A unit of militia. But there's no such thing, I don't think, as a unit of partisans. They're just a bunch of people, right? So we didn't count those as units, and so they did not have more, because the only Chinese units here are a bunch of militia here. What are the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5? This one over here, that's 6. So 6 militia for the KMT, and no militia or troops or anything for the CCP. So they did not get any points, but the Russians had enough points on their own to win the game. Okay, so let's move to, who's next? Let's move to the KMT, since we got the camera there. Expel foreign influence. Score 1 victory objective at the end of the game if there are no foreign enemy troops in mainland China. That doesn't mean the CCP though. But it does include the semi-autonomous regions. So what they mean by that are these things over here. Like you see here, this one here does not have a KMT roundel on it, but these are semi-autonomous. These were warlord provinces at the start of the game. But so you have to include all of China. Now all of China, if you're including it all, is all of this here, all the way around. All that you see there that is green. I just want to see, I don't think they're talking about the part, like these things up here are kind of Chinese as well, right? But not really. So they don't mean those, they just mean the green ones down there. So obviously they didn't get that point, because there's all those Japanese there. So, reclaim China. Score 1 victory objective if at the end of the game China has possession of any 2 of the following: Jehol, Manchuria, or Western Manchuria, Eastern Manchuria, Northern Manchuria, and Formosa. And they didn't. So here's Western and Eastern Manchuria, there's Northern Manchuria there, and Formosa is that island down there where the big ass battleship is. So they did not get any 2 of those. In fact, they didn't even get 1 of them. They did have Korea, but that's not the same thing. And then defeat communists. Score 1 victory objective if at the end of the game the CCP has no units left in China. And they don't. Like I said, we didn't count partisans as units, and there's no units in there for them. And so that's why the KMT in our game got 1 point. Okay. What else? Who's next? Okay, let's go on to the Axis now. So we'll start with Germany. Lebensraum. Sorry if I butcher these names, but I'm not great with my German. So score 1 victory objective to a maximum of 4 for each of the following groups of land zones possessed by Germany at the end of the game. So we look at Warsaw, West Poland, and Dolna Slubidola. So they have this one. They don't have Warsaw, so we can stop right now and say, okay, they don't have that. Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. We know they don't have that. The Russians have all 3 of them. Okay, so score 1 victory. Denmark, Netherlands, and Belgium. So Denmark, yes. Netherlands, no. And Belgium, no. That's the Netherlands and that's Belgium. Okay, so they don't get a point for that one. Yugoslavia and Greece. So there's Greece and there's Yugoslavia. That's 1 point for the Germans. And Bessarabia, Western Ukraine, and Belarusia. And they don't have those. They don't have any. Those are all Russian territories. Like there's Bessarabia, I think Belarusia's here. And what was the other one? Western Ukraine, I think. Yeah, so basically they need 3 of the 3 of them along inside of Russia here to get that point, and they did. So that's 1 point for the Germans. And that's the point up here. There you go. Germany won. So that means they must not have got these other ones. Well, let's see though. Score 1 victory objective if at the end of the game Germany possesses Moscow or 2 Soviet cities. Okay, they don't. We don't even need to go look at that. Gain resources. Score 1 victory objective at the end of the game if German income from territories and bonus income is above 50. And we actually looked at that, and we realized that they didn't. Here, let me just grab the German card here, just to make sure, because I've found a couple of mistakes that we made here already. So who knows? Maybe they did have more. I don't think so though. Here we go. So we're looking at German wartime bonuses. Right here. The ones in green there, that's the German wartime bonuses, okay? And so it was a greasy move by Musov, the Russians there. But he took out a 3 bonus here by taking this last one at the end of the game. Even though that gave, like this was completely neutral, right? So he took this one, which gave him another point here. But also it took a point away from the Germans, because having this neutral or Axis possessed would have given them 3 points. But as it was, they only got 2 points. So there's no points for that one. If Narvik is Axis possessed or aligned, that's 1. It's not. You can see that the British have that one. If Romania is Axis possessed or aligned, that's +3. And it is, that's that yellow one down there. So they got 3 more points as far as bonus income, I mean. Possession alignment of each of the following oil-producing territories: Transcaucasia, Southern Iran, Iraq, and none of them. They have none of them. Those are all British. And then there was the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, but that ended, so they don't get any points for that. So the only bonus income they had was 3. And you look up there, there is 36 plus 3 is 39. So they did not get that one. Where is that? Well, greater than 50, yes, so they did not get that one. Okay, so the last one is Spanish Civil War. Score 1 victory objective if the nationalists won the Spanish Civil War. If you play in the 1936 scenario, which we did, but if you started with the 1939 scenario, or Spain is Axis aligned at the end of the game in 39. Now there's ways that you can align the Axis at the, I think one of them is taking Gibraltar, another way is by taking London. Like that's after you won the Civil War then all those troops that start yellow, they will become the German black that you normally play with. But that didn't happen. They didn't win the Civil War anyway, so it didn't matter. Okay, so that's it. That's all Germany got was 1 point. So, Italian victory objectives. Let's take a look at it. So it is apparently Italy got one. Score 1 victory objective for each new land zone Italy possesses at the end of the game that they did not possess at the start of the game. And you can only get a maximum of 2 of those. So let's take a look over here. There's one right here. Does it say that it's got to have a point? No, it doesn't say that it's got to be worth a point. So this one here is 1. All you really need to do is just look for the Italian roundel, because we were pretty good at putting roundels on, and all you see is 1 Italian roundel. They don't have Abyssinia, which they took. They don't have anything down in Africa. They did have some things not that long ago, but they don't have it now. So maybe that's a good reason to be taking Albania. You can take Albania without gaining or without declaring war on anybody. But when you do, you're also giving, I think, 1 or 2 of the allies a point for that. So anyway, they didn't get that point, the Italians. Mediterranean dominance. Score 1 victory objective at the end of the game if Italy has twice as many capital ships in the Mediterranean as the Allies, or possess Gibraltar, the Suez Canal, and Malta. Yeah, so I know that we already looked at that. They don't possess the Suez Canal, or Malta, or Gibraltar, and the Americans are the only one with a capital ship in there, so they do not get that one. And then the last one, triumph of fascism. Score 1 victory objective if the Spanish nationalists won the Civil War in 1936. So that's the same one as the Germans, and that happened. So oh no, sorry, that didn't happen. Sorry, so they only got that 1 point. They got that 1 point for having this one spot right here, Barcelona. That's the only point that the Italians were able to gain. And that we could have taken that point away from them easily, either the Russians or the Allies, but we didn't. So again, playing towards the victory conditions, that's the thing that you gotta be very mindful of in this game if you're playing with these victory conditions, because little points like that could have meant they won the game. So Japan, colonialism, score 2 victory conditions if at the end of the game Japan's total income is 50 including bonus income. So what do we have up here? Okay, so that's 32, and so there's no way we're going to get 18 more, right? Like I can grab it there and tell you what the bonuses are, but I can tell you right now there's no way we're going to find 18 points bonus for the Japanese. So they get 2. They do get a few bonus points though, for sure. So let's just move this out of the way. So they get 2 points for Borneo, so that's 2. Java, 4. Nope, they don't have Java. Sorry, there's 2. Malay, nope. Philippines, yep. So they got 4 victory points. They don't have Midway Wake or the Solomons. They do have Nanking. Oh, they do have some of these things here. They've got, but they don't have all of them. So there's a bunch of Chinese territories in here. But basically what it means is everything along the coast, but they didn't have everything along the coast. Or they did actually. So I think that's 1 bonus point. But that's not enough, right? They got a bonus of 5. So that only brings them up to 37. So they're far short of coming in at an income of 50. And we were mindful of that. We were trying to take bonus points and stuff off of the Japanese at the end of the game. So Pacific Security. Score 1 point victory objective if Japan has Midway, Wake, Guam, and the Caroline and Marshall Islands, or twice the capital ships as the Allies. Now, we already looked at the capital ships earlier in the video. We know that they have 1, and we also know that the Americans have 1 in the Pacific way over there. So, and they don't have the islands that they talked about. Like there's 2 of the islands right there that the Americans possess. They don't have any of the islands that they need. So that's not it. Asian security. Score 1 victory objective if at the end of the game Japan has, in aggregate, twice as many forces on all shared Japanese-Soviet land borders. And they do, right here. They've got twice as many. So they got 1 point for this right here. This guy's back here. Okay, so what else? Raw materials. Score 1 victory objective for each of the following Japan possesses at the end of the game. Okay, let's just go down there and take a look. I think they got 1 or 2 of these. Okay, so Malay, no. Hanoi and Saigon, no. I took that one away at the very last turn of the game. See, if they would have had both of these blue territories, then they would have got a point, so they didn't. Philippines, yes, they got that one. Borneo, yes, they got that one, so that's 2 points. Java, no, they don't have that one. And Nanking. Now remember, this one is not on the card, but it's in the rule book. That's Nanking right here, I believe, right? Yeah. And so they have that one. So that's 2 points plus the one earlier, so that's 3 points in total. And you can see up here, Japan has 3 points. All right. And I think that's everybody, isn't it? And let me just take a look here, see if we forgot anybody. No, we got all those guys. We got all those guys. We got all those guys. All right, so that's everybody. Yeah, so that's how we came up at this. How I recame at that. So these guys got 5, not 4. These guys got 8, not 7, and these guys stayed at 5. So that's how you score the game using the victory conditions, the victory objectives that you find on page 14, or starting on page 14 in the rule book. Like I said, the victory cities, that one, I don't know about that one. If you know about it, then you can post in the comment section how that one's supposed to work, or how that one would even make any sense. Anyway, so that's how you score the game. Now, you can score the game any way you want. Like I was just talking with Rank Carcass on the phone when I paused it there. He was the one that played this game, him and his brother. He said that when he and his brother play, they have a room like I do. It doesn't look exactly like this, but you can go to his channel and check it out. He's got a nice table there. So when they play, they leave the board set up, and he's got cats, so he's got to have a lid on the board and everything, because the cats love to go up there and knock shit around. So anyway, what they do is they play till they find a winner. You know, it doesn't matter if it goes till, I think one time, he said one time it went to 1962 before somebody finally capitulated. So that's another way, is go for the total victory. You can decide on your own victory conditions, and that will depend upon how much time you have, right? You and your friends. Like if you have to play at your kitchen table and your wife has gone for the weekend and all you have is a weekend, you know, then everything has to be cleaned up. Then you're going to have to find something like this, these victory conditions, and stop the game at that point, right? Like at the end of the weekend. We played 2.5 days here, and until fairly late at night, like not early into the morning, but we played until like around 11 o'clock each night, I think. All 3 nights, and Friday we only played, like they had to travel here Friday. So we had lots of time, and we got to the point where we could play with the victory conditions. But if you have more time, like if it's something that you set up and this game it could take you a month to play, you know, like you and your friends get together this weekend and maybe 2 weekends from now, or maybe the weekend after that as well, then you've got some time and you can decide, okay, this is what we think would win the game. Like, the Russians have to do this, or the Allies would have to do this, or the Axis would have to do this. It could be like Axis and Allies, where you're capturing capitals, right? Like with the Axis being out of the game, maybe you have to capture Berlin and Rome and Tokyo, you know? And with the Allies to be out of the game, maybe they have to lose, I wouldn't lose all of the capitals, because that one's a difficult one to achieve. Like maybe all but Washington, I don't know. And for Russia, obviously, they'd have to be completely out of the game, because Russia has only really one country. I mean, they've got the Republicans down there, but they turn into Russians, and they got the CCP down here, but they only start with one territory and just a couple of units. So really, they're on their own for the most part. And so I would say you'd have to totally wipe out the Russians. Like they would have to meet their surrender conditions for them to be out. So you could look for the last man standing kind of thing. That would make sense to me, but that could take an awfully long time, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like if you've got the time to play, then maybe that's a way to play the game. Or maybe you can have some victory conditions that you've made up on your own. And if you have, then please let me know what they are, because I would like to find something different than this for a victory condition at the end of the game. Because this one didn't make as much sense to me. Like I said, with a couple of them. Most of them are pretty good, right? Like most of the conditions, they make sense, but some of them just don't, like that having to have the strategic rockets. Like that makes zero sense whatsoever to me. And so I don't see how that could possibly be a victory condition. Like, ooh, you got strategic rockets, I guess you win the game, you know, even though you never used them. Anyway, so that's the end of this series of how to. Now, another thing that I'm going to do, and it'll be another series, a completely other series, and it'll be along the how-to vein, is is this. I'm going to go through all of the nations here. Like, we're going to get one of their cards and we're going to look at it and we're going to talk about each nation individually. So each nation will have its own video. And I've done that before, but only for how to build the armies, like where to get the pieces from and everything, and what to use, and just as suggestions, right? But I'd like to go through, okay, this is what their peacetime income, this is what their wartime income, this is how they get bonuses, this is what their victory objectives are, what are the weird things about them. Like even the costs of the units and stuff like that, some of them are different than others. Japanese tanks cost more than everybody else's tanks, right? Germany has a few units that nobody else has. Like there's the special units up there, and they've got special abilities. So we're going to go through the special abilities and about who they are at war with, who they can declare war on, what are the conditions for them to declare war. And I'm going to do that for all of the nations. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to split up the UK, if they're going to be one video for all three of them combined, because they've got three different cards, right? Or if I'll just do one video for the whole thing, because there's not much to talk about when it comes to Anzac, right? They've only got a few conditions of this and that, and most of the stuff that the costs and everything that they have are linked to the UK up there. Like for instance, you can't build anything from the weapons down here. Like say you develop jet fighters like I could, you couldn't put a jet fighter down here because it has to come in the UK home country. This is not the UK home country. The UK home country is up there in London, right? London and the rest of the British Islands there. You can't put them down here either. So I don't know that it would make much sense. Maybe make a video with just FEC and Anzac at the same time. That might make a little bit more sense, because having one for all three of them seems like an awful lot for one video. So maybe that's a good idea, just putting the two of them in there. That's another series that I'd like to do. And the other one is continuing on the expansion sets. I've got lots of them. Doug was kind enough to send me some, and I've purchased some. So I've got lots of expansion sets that I could go through. I've already started that series, and when I do these things, I will place them in the playlists. Like this one here, this video that I made today will go in the how to play playlists, and I've got other playlists, and you can see them on my channel just by going to playlists and see what I've got there. This game that was played here, the one that you're looking at, that's all in a playlist. There's three videos, and that's been put into a playlist. So that's what's going to happen coming up, and hopefully I'll get that done before it's time to go to the cabin because the snow is almost gone out there. But the snow goes away in town before it goes away out at my cabin, so I've got a little bit more time, and I'm going to have to get my ass in gear though if I'm going to get all that done. I can make the odd one here and there though. Like there's some weekends that are just no fun to go out there. It's just pouring down rain or something, right? Might as well stay home and make videos instead of going out there and sitting in the rain. Anyway, that's me. That's the end of this video. That's the end of this series. And if I have more to add later, like I didn't do one on the Spanish Civil War, I might do that. I didn't do that because I know I'm going to do one with the expansion sets, but maybe each one deserves its own. We'll see. So anyway, that's it. Take care, everyone. General Hand Grenade out.